Hey everybody, good morning. Hey, we've had a lot of questions here recently in the last week or so concerning what's going to happen with the food supply now that we have war in Ukraine, we have trucker disruption in both the US and Canada. What are we looking at here? And so, it's anybody's guess. Nobody can predict the future. But based on my experience, what I'm seeing, I'll throw a few things out here. As far as the war in Ukraine, Ukraine it's kind of an interesting place. My grandparents were from Ukraine, still have some family there, distant. However, Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. They grow more grain in Ukraine than anywhere else in Europe by a very large margin. And it's if you consider in the United States, it's kind of like Iowa and Illinois kind of a thing. It's very heavy production grain area, and that's why it's been so. It's one of the reasons it's been so fought over. It's been fought over for the last 150 years, over and over and over again. This is not a first. But anyway, that's so. What I'm seeing is here at Azure, we don't get any food from the Ukraine. We don't import anything from Ukraine at all. However, Azure has relationships domestically here in the U.S. and some in Canada as well, and around the world when you're talking about, other types of imports that don't grow in this region. But it will still put pressure on the markets that we purchase from. So people who are purchasing from Ukraine, and Ukraine's been famous for cheap grain, including in the organic world. There's a fair amount of cheap organic flour and grain coming out of Ukraine. And so people that have been getting it from Ukraine are now going to be having to go to the domestic market to keep their supply up, which is going to put upward pressure. It is a worldwide market. We probably will see some upward pressure on grain prices and prices in general. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not going to see overarching price increases, but we're definitely going to see upward pressure. I don't see any major shortages for the near future, but other than we are having some shortages from the drought from last year, but not any new ones from Ukraine, at least not unless this goes on a lot longer. So as far as supply chain and the trucking and all that, the past year, domestic freight has already more than doubled in price. Here at Azure on the outbound side, we have not upped our freight rate. It has stayed the same. If you're whatever percentage you were 2 years ago, we haven't changed it. Although, maybe we should, but we have not done that. But it has increased the cost of inbound products substantially. Domestic freight has more than doubled in price, and international ocean freight has more than tripled in price in the past 2 years. So that has put upward pressure on food prices. Now that we're seeing the disruption with the truckers, I think there's two major reasons that we're seeing this upward pressure. Number one is fuel prices, of course. For whatever the reasons that I won't get into here, fuel has nearly doubled in the past 2 years, and fuel is a major cost in delivering product or getting product from anywhere. It's a part of the cost of anything you do. The other issue domestically here is that there is a shortage of well-qualified drivers in the trucking industry. So truckers that are well qualified and professionals are a little bit in short supply. And it has been extremely exasperated by these mandates that have come down, particularly from Canada, but they came down here in the US as well. And I know the Supreme Court overturned it last minute, but there were quite a few drivers that just retired at that time, took themselves out of the driver pool, and it has exasperated the shortages here in the US as well as even more so in Canada. And truthfully, Canadian drivers do actually deliver a considerable amount of freight in the US, just as an aside here. So it has definitely even put more pressure on. There's some camaraderie between the U.S. and Canadian drivers. I think many U.S. drivers feel like they got a bit of a raw deal in Canada, and a lot of them are not happy. I will say here at Azure, though, we never ever went down the mandate path with our drivers ever. So that has not happened with the drivers that actually work here directly at Azure. We never told anybody that they were going to be mandated to do anything outside of their choice as far as their health is concerned. Don't think it's right. Didn't do it. So we haven't had that as far as your local delivery drivers and that deliver in here for Azure directly. Although Azure still is having to use commercial freight quite a bit. Commercial freight, because we do not have enough trucks and drivers, we couldn't grow quite fast enough that way. So we have been using commercial freight companies to haul the freight, particularly on our shuttles and our inbound freight. So it does affect us from that perspective. And just to get it out there, we would like to get more and more of that in-house, and we've been working on it quickly. In the past 2 years, we have added 17 drivers to the Azure family. We really want to keep the Azure delivery and even the transport within the Azure family and amongst those independent and family-owned companies. That is, that's an Azure core value. That's where we want to go. We want to keep as much of that within as we can. So for the pitch, if any of you know any drivers that might be interested in driving for Azure in any way, anyone who's got a commercial driver's license and is able to do that kind of work, pitch, send them our way. We would love to talk with them. There's hey, delivering food for Azure, it's a great job. I used to drive myself. Love it. It's wonderful meeting all of you wonderful folks when I was out on the road at least. And it's a great gig. So hey, just wanted to let you know. Thanks so much.